So that 1 out of 4, what does that really mean? It is truly more than you think. It is almost 40 million women in the United States alone. In the United States alone, and that's just the people that we know about. There are many people that experience domestic violence, and we know that it is underreported or misreported. The last 4 times at my agency, Advocacy Services for Abused Deaf Victims, accompanied a deaf survivor to court to get an order of protection, we were denied 4 times. The reasons for that, the first one was when we went to get an order of protection because of the financial abuse that our victim was experiencing at the hands of her husband. He would take every one of her paychecks. He would leave her penniless. She had no money, which meant she was unable to leave. All because New York state law does not recognize that behavior, and they don't see that it puts the victim, quote unquote, in danger. The second time we went to get an order of protection was because this person's ex-husband kept texting her, and those messages would say, "I wish you were dead. I will have a big celebration when you die. You're a bitch, you're fat, and you're a lousy mother." Among countless other emotional abusive comments that he had been sending her over many years. We know that this causes emotional abuse. So at this point, she decided that she was going to take control, she was going to utilize the system to go get some support, and when we showed up, New York state law said, quote unquote, "You're not in danger." The third time that we went to get an order of protection was because the survivor's abusive ex-boyfriend kept calling her and texting her, and he would call on the video phone, and he would show up unannounced at the deaf club at certain other public places where events were happening, and he knew she would be there. So this was causing severe fear for her, and she was emotional and mentally paralyzed. But she was turned down for that order of protection because, again, she wasn't, quote unquote, in danger. The fourth time we went, we'd already gotten a temporary order of protection. But upon arrival for the proceedings regarding the extended order of protection, the abuser's presence intimidated the survivor's testimony to the point where the court, of course, said they were going to deny that order of protection because she wasn't, quote unquote, in danger. New York state law often says, well, sorry, you're not in danger. Intimate partner violence is more than you think. The way that I see it, intimidation is putting emotional health in danger. Verbal abuse is putting psychological health and welfare in danger. Threats are not always about life or death. In the physical sense of the term, they just aren't. But they are almost always about the life or death of the spirit and self-esteem of the victims and survivors, which is essentially putting them in danger. When I say in danger, it is more than you think. As if this danger was not severe enough to prompt calls for massive reforms within our system. There is an ongoing danger of not taking action to remove those obstacles that survivors face in securing protection from those abusers. One such obstacle is our need to ensure that survivors are continuously protected in their courageous endeavors to pursue orders of protection. Being in the physical proximity with the abusers in court is a surefire way to re-victimize that survivor. That re-victimization must be stopped. The last thing that we need to do to our brave survivors and their testimony is to have that be influenced by the physical presence of their perpetrators. This is why it is imperative that we pass legislation which protects survivors of domestic violence by strengthening order of protection laws. We can do this by providing the survivor resources to video conferences during their testimony in court. Additionally, we must consider the challenges that survivors face in other areas of their life. Take, for example, the case of Jonata Simmons. She lived in Genesee Street Apartments for several years before her landlord evicted her. And her landlord decided to evict her because she called the police after being attacked by her ex-boyfriend. He also happened to be the father of her newborn child. And he also happened to be armed with a gun. Something is seriously wrong with this picture. He had the gun. He beat her. But she got evicted? This must stop. We as a community must participate in community accountability. We must hold abusers accountable, and we must support our survivors by ensuring that they have housing, that that housing is protected, that they are not evicted, that they are not prohibited from obtaining housing solely based on their domestic violence experiences. These examples are just a few, and these are a few examples of the legislation that we need that can directly help us here in New York State. We have the potential to help transform our communities. The time is now, right now. I would like to introduce Pamela Graham. She is the Domestic Violence Prevention Education Coordinator at Alternatives for Battered Women, and she'll speak on domestic violence on campus.